The 90s saw some all-time classic attractions open at UK theme parks. At the new Chessington World of Adventures, a roller coaster would change the way parks would look at investments by creating one of the most immersive, creative rides to ever exist in the country. A coaster that was nearly lost forever until another manufacturer was brought in to save it. It's time to take flight through the wild woods into Transylvania.
Chessington Zoo. Chessington Zoo. Chessington Zoo. Chessington Zoo. There's a fun fair and a circus at Chessington Zoo. Open every day.
In the 1980s, theme parks were still a relatively new idea in the UK, and the testing grounds to see if they were viable was a success. After Chessington World of Adventures opened in 1987, transforming the Chessington Zoo into a fully themed attraction for the whole family, talk began quickly of what would come next.
Chessington World of Adventures.
John Wardley, who had helped create the World of Adventures, had been given the role as director of the new Two Swords Group Park developments, and his first job would be to start planning the next phase of Chessington's development.
We wouldn't have been interested in just developing a ride park, however exciting that might have been, because there's nothing particularly unique in a ride park. And John Wardley persuaded us that heavy theming was the thing to make it unique.
The park was fully themed, with no new area left untouched, creating something never really seen before in the UK. Chessington was such a success that they needed to increase the park's offerings right away. At the opening, the park's main attractions were all supplied by German company Mack Rides, including a family-friendly runaway train, a well-themed log flume, and a dark ride. One thing that many had hoped for to help complement these rides would be a more thrilling roller coaster. While the United States had seen more and more thrilling roller coasters open up, the UK's offerings were relatively small. Outside of the classic wooden roller coasters, you could find mostly off-the-shelf experiences such as the corkscrew. As for something of the fully themed nature, that was even rarer. The park called for something special, and a roller coaster was not exactly the easiest offering to theme well.
We felt that a roller coaster of some kind was the right thing, but there aren't very many things you can do with a roller coaster in the way of theming. You can turn it into a runaway train, you can put it in the dark and make out you're travelling through space. But there was one new piece of technology that had just come out in the States, and that was the suspended roller coaster.
Earlier in the decade, on the other side of the Atlantic, in 1981 at Kings Island, Arrow Development would open the first permanent suspended roller coaster, the Bat. The new roller coaster used a hinge assembly to allow the roller coaster trains to freely swing when taking corners. The attraction was plagued with problems from the start, including excessive stress on the steel supports due to the forces exerted on its unbanked curved track sections. It operated for a short period of time before closing permanently as a failed roller coaster. Arrow had not given up on the design, and refined it when in 1984 they would open the Big Bad Wolf.
Just in case you've been wondering about Busch Gardens' new ride this season, just in case, wonder no more. And this video should give you a clue. It's called the Big Bad Wolf. It's a $6 million suspended roller coaster to be second in size only to the Loch Ness Monster built in 1978.
Arrow would modify the original Bat design to use bank turns and improve braking to create an attraction that actually worked. Mostly. The attraction was quickly followed by 3 more suspended Arrow coasters around the United States, and they were becoming quite popular.
I've done a few little things like a record with a young fellow named Michael Jackson called Thriller. And I think that kind of identification of something that is a thrilling new ride is sort of gotten stuck on me, and I enjoy it, actually.
Nothing else really had been seen like the suspended coaster in a permanent park, and hanging under the track was seen as something new, thrilling, and exciting. Not long after, Dutch manufacturer Vekoma would sell the new popular suspended arrow design when they would open Air Race in Belgium in 1987. The first swing-in turn suspended coaster and the first suspended roller coaster in Europe. Vekoma had a long partnership with Arrow to build the steel structures for Arrow's coasters in Europe, which later formed into Arrow instructing Vekoma in track building techniques and licensing its coaster building technology, allowing Vekoma to enter the coaster market on their own. This is why there's such a large crossover between Arrow designs and Vekoma coasters from that time period. Vekoma's European suspended coaster would also use Arrow trains, in Air Race's case, themed like planes. Chessington had quite the limitations on what they could build at the park due to local restrictions. John Wardley looked for the highest and lowest sections of the park and found the existing bird gardens near the bottom of the site needed an overhaul. The birds could be moved to a better themed location in the park and make space for the large expansion the park was planning. As for the type of coaster, since the park couldn't build high, they had to look for something unique. The team travelled to the US and experienced Busch Gardens' Big Bad Wolf for themselves. It was exactly what John Wardley was looking for. The free swinging pendulum coaster under the track was a unique coaster that would complement the new theme park.
The Big Bad Wolf was probably the first of the really good suspended coasters, and it's still an outstanding one.
Chessington would not just plonk a coaster in the park, however. Everything had to be incredibly detailed and themed. A whole new area that could be considered an attraction by itself was built around the new star attraction of Chessington World of Adventures. The ride was just looked at as a way to bring that theme across. As for that theme, a swinging suspended coaster under the track immediately gave the feeling of flight. But John Wardley thought something more than birds was needed. Just like the failed Kings Island version, Chessington's newest coaster would be related to bats. Vampire bats, with the whole land themed as Transylvania. No area would be untouched, bringing a new, eerie Gothic location to Greater London.
Tell us about the new vampire ride at Chessington.
It's brilliant, the way it swung out.
I did feel scared when it flew over the tree.
I felt sick when I went on it. Looks like Robin was sick.
The vampire is in a new world of adventure at Chessington. It beats the living daylights out of other days out.
Construction began with Aerodynamics building the roller coaster, weaving it throughout the new land and forest. The majority of it hidden from sight. While Arrow built the coaster, its theming was worked on by the Sparks Group, who would go on to help John Wardley create some of the best themed experiences any UK theme park has seen to this day. Billed as the UK's hanging roller coaster, the Vampire joined the park in one of the best themed areas ever seen at a theme park, in the UK or abroad, setting the standard for everything that followed. After testing was complete, with some troubles along the way, including stalls, the UK's most exciting new roller coaster opened as a part of Transylvania in April 1990. The world finally had an Arrow bat-themed suspended coaster that worked. Along with it, Transylvania included a highly themed land full of fun, mystery, and food to explore. The nearby Black Forest Chateau even had a stage where guest eating could be entertained by an organ-playing animatronic, one of two that would be in the land. The Gothic theme created for the Vampire was found from the moment guests entered the queue, heading through the castle gates and through a fog-filled underpass beneath the track. Riders found themselves in a graveyard full of tombs and dark passageways. More impressive yet was the ride station, a Gothic-filled abbey with chandeliers, murals, and a large pipe organ, played by an animatronic named Marcel. The Vampire's organist's face was based on an old Phil Collins wax figure. It appeared to be playing the incredible theme music for the attraction, which was composed by Graham Smart. The theme made the roller coaster stand out from anything that existed before, with its 3 bat-themed trains swinging over the area. With 2,200 feet of track weaving through the wooded trees, a 70-foot height, reaching speeds of 45 miles per hour, Vampire flew through its course and even into a tunnel themed like a cave that felt like it lasted forever as you swung through. The £8 million Transylvania expansion, just 3 years after the park opened, was a huge hit, and guests came from all over to experience the UK's newest roller coaster. It helped the park surge in popularity and offered more to do for those visiting, eventually becoming Chessington World of Adventure's most iconic ride. The queue set up the experience and was eerie throughout, scaring many children who would experience the ride as one of their first roller coasters. It blurred the line between what a thrilling family coaster could be. The Vampire became the most iconic roller coaster in the whole country after it opened in 1990. Children dared to brave the swinging ride deep in Transylvania on one of the biggest coasters at the time in the UK. It was the talk of schools everywhere, with kids boasting that they had been to Chessington World of Adventures and conquered the Vampire. Aerodynamics had another hit on their hand, and their future was looking bright, increasing revenue to $20 million over the previous year, with work on the Vampire, the Viper, and the track system for the upcoming King Kong attraction at Universal Studios Florida.
Like any business, Arrow has had its share of ups and downs, but through it all, they've managed to lead the industry, and now orders come in from all over the globe. Arrow rides are springing up in places like Kuwait, Indonesia, Colombia, China, and Las Vegas. In fact, the Desperado, found at Buffalo Bills near the California-Nevada border, has officially been declared the world's tallest coaster by the Guinness Book of World Records.
Sadly, the industry was changing, and a decade later, the company would no longer exist.
I was stupid. I was really stupid.
On December 3rd, 2001, they would file for bankruptcy, placing the troubled Vampire in a difficult position. Reliability for the ride had become somewhat sketchy over the last few years. Rumors began that the ride would be closed for good. After the bankruptcy, in the year 2000, what was believed to be the Vampire's final flight took place.
It's now switched off. Will it ever run again is the question.
However, you can't stop a vampire. Well, I guess unless you stake it, or give them garlic, or, wait, the sun? Okay, I guess it isn't so hard to kill a vampire, but this time, it didn't die. It was all but confirmed that the Vampire would take its final flight through the wood, though surprisingly, the park would turn to a company that had much experience with Arrow's designs over the years to bring the Vampire back to life.
Anyway, welcome to the new Vampire trains. You're seeing me sitting in one of the carriages of the first train which is in build. The main things you'll notice, and perhaps the most important selling point of the new trains, is my feet are dangling.
After standing but not operating during the 2001 season, now called just Vampire, the classic roller coaster would once again take flight. Reopening in 2002, this time with bright purple, floorless trains built by Vekoma. 2002 would turn out to be quite the year for UK theme parks, with the return of Vampire, the opening of Air, and Colossus.
As you probably noticed when you looked at the sky just now, you'll see that the main ride columns in certain areas have now got a notch in them. This is basically because the new trains, now that they have no floors, e.g. your feet are dangling, we need a larger free space envelope to suit these trains, and that's why we've had to notch the column.
The new Vekoma trains saved the attraction, though their reception was mixed. To accommodate the flawless designs, part of the attraction's area had to be dug deeper to allow the proper clearance for riders' legs. This resulted in the removal of some of the incredible theming seen around the area, along with all the theming for the cave-like tunnel. The trains featured over-the-shoulder restraints which many found uncomfortable and not necessary. People swore by the fact that the new trains did not swing as much as the old.
The new Vampire. One of 3 new adventures at Chessington.
Vampire lived on. Maybe not quite as great as it previously was, but it was still here to stay. The bigger tragedy for the ride would come over the next decade. Much of what made Vampire so special would slowly be removed, left abandoned, not working, or just forgotten. The organ player barely played his iconic theme song anymore, sat looking worse for wear. The canopy over the graveyard was removed, reportedly due to lack of maintenance. Most of the station theming also, and little by little, the real elements that made the theme and the feel of the ride completely special was gone. Something that has plagued too many Two Swords or later Merlin parks on way too many occasions. The original castle-like entrance is no longer used, and the whole feel of the area was changed. Black Forest Chateau became Count's Cauldron, and is now, uninspiringly, named Vampire Burger Kitchen. Much of the original charm of this food location was also removed. Like, come on, you couldn't think of a name with steak in it? Vampire Steak Burger Kitchen? It writes itself, really. While the ride remained fun, the older it got, the more was removed, with reports starting to come in that it was becoming rougher and rougher. Its future remained questionable. Vampires, though, are, I guess, kind of hard to kill, and once again the iconic attraction would get a burst of life, or death, I guess.
I'm Hannah Baker and I'm the creative manager here at the resort. So this year, one of our most loved rides, the Vampire, celebrated its 30th birthday. So in recognition of it reaching this fantastic milestone, our in-house creative team spent the winter revamping some of its iconic features.
For the ride's 30th birthday, it finally was getting some of the love it had needed for many, many years. A brand new soundtrack for the attraction was created. The park updated its theming in the queue, and for the first time in a long time, the animatronic came back to life, playing once again with a refreshed look. Today, for the first time in many, many years, Vampire is flying high. On reflection, the Rollercoaster is a legend within UK theme parks. And while over the years the attraction has lost quite a lot of its charm, its importance cannot be understated. Before John Wardley went on to create Nemesis, Oblivion, heck, even Smiler, and other parks added rides such as the Big One and Shockwave, the Vampire is, and still is, really the UK's first iconic roller coaster. Now over 30 years old, with more than 2/3 of its life with the newer Vekoma trains, it's a ride that luckily is still operating today, after it nearly ceased to exist once already, and a ride that paved the way for many of the great rides that followed around the whole country. Many would call Nemesis the defining coaster of UK theme park history, but really, it owed a lot to what had come at Chessington in 1990. As an aging roller coaster, the future of Vampire is unknown, and how long it will remain is anyone's guess. Could a retrack be on the cards eventually, like its slightly younger, more thrilling sister ride? It's hard to imagine a Chessington World of Adventures without a vampire in it. You know, maybe with the Vekoma trains already, Chessington could get a discount on the track. It would be good to see it revamped. Until then, the Vampire continues to fly through the woods, and this legend of history is still worth visiting. And be sure to remember how it paved the way for many of the bigger thrills that followed. A roller coaster that combined with its theme was much, much more than it should have been to its many, many people over the years who have had the chance to ride it. As the third oldest operating Merlin coaster in the country, and the only Arrow suspended coaster outside of the US, it still has bite. A perfect mix of thrills and family-friendly fun that still has an element of charm not found on most other rides today. A ride that didn't let the limitations imposed on the park stop its designers create a bloody good experience. Something that John Wardley has done many, many times. The Vampire is without doubt a legendary roller coaster. Oh, one more thing. In 2017, the area surrounding Vampire was renamed Wild Woods. While Vampire would cost around £3 million, the whole area in 1990 had a budget of £8 million. It wouldn't be home to just one attraction, but two. Another John Wardley ride, and one of the most beloved dark rides ever to exist in the UK. One that would take losing an attraction's charm to the next level. That story, though, is for another expedition.
Tell us about the bubble works at Chessington.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Chessington World of Adventures. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to join the expedition. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates on upcoming episodes, and a special thank you to our Patreons for supporting the channel. We will see you next time.
Welcome and enter the center of my Super Mario adventure. My girl's trapped on the other side of town, so I'm moving in leaps and bounds.